going on, Mecca fans? It's your boy Dobes. Just hopping on. Apologies, you got to see my ugly mug for a little bit longer than you want to before the episode today. We got a great episode coming, little Boxing Day review, upcoming Prem match preview. We recorded the episode yesterday, Thursday, December 29th, just after we finished recording. The news came that Pele passed away. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes because he is that important. He is, not only a soccer legend, but he's an icon in the sports community as a whole. What he has meant to the sport transcends time, it transcends generations. And, outside of the trophies, outside of the goals he's scored, you know, across the world, if you know anything about the game of football, no matter how old, no matter how young, have heard the name Pele. You've seen the pictures of him holding up the World Cup trophy, what he's meant to Brazil. And I think, we're all mourning sort of the loss of this icon, but at the same time, we have to think of what all he has done to change the sport. At a time period where there's no social media, there's no posting on Instagram. He grew the game into what it is today. The flair, the goals, the assist, everything that we're seeing these players that they do on a world-class level today, Pele has done. Go look up the videos, go check out what he has done. But just wanted to hop on before we could hop into the episode and said that we're with, Pele's family and friends. They're in our prayers. And we are so, so, so thankful for everything that he has done and the entire football community as a whole. So here now on to the episode, but from the entire Mecca, rest in peace, Pele. We love you and thank you for everything that you've done. On to the banter.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mecca of Banter podcast. We've got four of the fellas here today, and we are excited to preview some more Premier League action. We have finished Boxing Day.
Oh, yeah.
And holy mother, we had some games, fellas.
Holy goals. I was going to say holy goals.
Yeah.
We had goals. We had a lot of great stuff. I think we should kick it off before we preview. Let's kick it off with the revelation of the Premier League, Newcastle.
Wow.
Again.
Dude.
Just dominated the game.
Yeah. Dominated is a great way to say it. And it was just clear. I mean, you look at the time scored, 3rd minute, 7th minute, and 32nd minute. Leicester were never in the game. And I think it's interesting with the World Cup break. We talked about it on the last podcast of how it would affect different teams. For me, I forgot how bad Leicester was.
Terrible.
Can't string together passes. It's bonkers to me. Almiron's goal was awesome. It was so sick. What atrocious defending. I mean, it's elementary stuff of passing off runners to defenders or putting a body on a guy and they just let him walk through the whole thing. It was wild. And then they also did it with kind of some big guys on the bench too, Newcastle. It wasn't they had all of their studs in and they just rolled. They definitely had some rotation going on as well. So all credit to them. They looked awesome again.
Absolutely. They just have such a balanced team though, man.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to say, I think that, obviously we know how big of a piece that Bruno is to them, but I think that the job that Eddie Howe's doing, because it's not like they have, if you look at the teams below him, Liverpool, United, Spurs, Chelsea, all of those rosters are loaded.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless if the output is currently there, all of those rosters are absolutely loaded compared to Newcastle's. The job that Eddie Howe has done up to this point, is remarkable. It's going to be obviously, I think there's 23 games left in the Prem, so they have a long way to go. But just how fluid that they look after being, gone for a month and having their guys not there was honestly, it was one of my favorite games to watch at the weekend. And for me, they're must watch at this point because yes, as a United fan, I want to see them lose. I want to see them drop points. But at the same time, they're electric to watch. They're absolutely electric to watch. And that, like you said, that Almiron goal, the different angles of it, the Bruno tackle, the ball out wide, the 1-2, the finish, the celebration, just, absolutely so fun to watch.
It's awesome. Awesome. And Joe Linton still continues to be like a world-class midfielder. He was the man of the match, providing an assist, but had like an 8.6 rating. Nuts.
Baller.
Yeah.
Dude, what I texted you guys the other day, like what's scary is they have Isak
Oh, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
waiting. Just waiting.
4 months out. Like they're doing all this without and this kid's the truth. He a baller, bro.
He's really good. Yeah.
So
They're one of those. They could add in January too. Like they have the money to very well go out and add another.
They sure
piece.
do, don't they?
Like they have the money to go spend. I mean, Isak's just the start for them, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Mm.
Well, let's transition. The big news. Yes, sir.
Say what you want, bro. Say
Yes,
what you
sir.
want.
So my
Gave up on Nunez already. Had to make another signing.
Stop, bro.
Straight up, that's what it was. They watched the same games we've been watching. They're like, this guy cannot handle it.
But you got two guys here who will not let you own this. So I will sit here till my grave and create spin zone after spin zone after spin zone, bro.
I'm getting my popcorn ready to listen.
Yeah, man.
Well, Liverpool. So for those of you who don't know, Liverpool just signed Cody Gakpo, a stud Dutch player. Had a great World Cup. I'm excited to see how he fits because he's different than everything we have up there.
Yep.
He's 6'3", aerial threat, great feet, 9 goals, 12 assists in 13 games in the Eredivisie.
Mm-hmm.
Can play two positions.
Yep. Versatile. I'm excited to see how he fits in here because we've got Diaz and Jota are out for another few months, 2 months probably.
Is that what it is? Is it 2 months more? I was just wondering.
Yeah, Jota's not back till February, and
Gotcha.
Diaz comes back, I think, around the same time.
Gotcha.
So you got a potential front three of Gakpo, Nunez, Salah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
I like that. I mean, they're all different players, but Gakpo, I think, is a great fit for the club. I think he'll do great. We just beat Aston Villa 2-1. I did predict that score, by the way.
You did, yeah.
I was a little nervous though, man. Villa had a really poor first half. We looked really good. Second half, they looked great. We looked average.
Mm.
It was, a tale of two halves, obviously, but what do you guys think? I know you guys, Dobes and Henry especially, you guys were all in on Gakpo for United, right? And I'll be honest.
I wouldn't say all in.
I honestly, he's a solid player.
He's a solid player. I think that.
Okay, hey, you're doing your spin zone shit. Stop spinning this shit.
No. All I'm saying is
No.
that we're not worse off because of it. Like if you look at the players that like United wanted and then didn't sign, I think Nunez is the best example where Nunez was like the top target and then he's a huge flop. So I think we're gonna be fine. But
I've said it all along. We need a proper 9. We don't need a half winger, a half striker. No, I've never really wanted Gakpo. Maybe I've tried to convince myself that I wanted Gakpo. But at the same time, if you're going to tell me that was last week's news, this week's news is João Felix. Will we get João Felix? Probably not. But that's this week's news. Next week's news, when you're at the biggest club in the world, like Man United, the amount of clicks and players that are going to be linked to us, hell, Thiago's probably linked to us. Virgil van Dijk's probably linked to us right now.
I heard Wesley Sneijder might get signed in January.
Yeah, Gakpo's just another name that's linked with United because it gives Fabrizio some clicks. He wants to talk about the biggest club in the world. Like I've always said, we need a proper 9, not a half winger, half striker, not proven in the Prem. So, I mean, the biggest takeaway from Gakpo is Liverpool's given up on Nunez that quick.
Seriously.
Like let's go out and let's spend $75 million to go out, 75 million plus to go out and get Nunez. To then Nunez is probably last on the depth chart. Like I would put Bobby, I would put Diaz, I would put Jota, I would put Salah, and I would put Gakpo ahead of Nunez. So why is it that all of a sudden we get the $80 million Maguire waste of money, all this different stuff? We got Liverpool over here just dropping bags after another bag to go replace the striker they just bought this last summer. Butchie, what are your thoughts?
What a spin. That was props
That
to
was
you.
majestic, bro. That was great.
Yeah, you're lucky we're live, or I'd say spin these, you know what. But you know what? Hey, you have fun with Alanga. You
Now,
have fun with
Felix,
Alanga. Ass.
Enzo
Horrible.
Fernandez.
Horrible. He ain't going to United.
Bro, he's
Enzo.
just, bro, like much like Winks texted, at any given moment, we're linked to 80 plus players. So, like, by the time it gets to like next summer, it's going to be like Pele is going to sign for United.
Yeah.
So, this
Yes.
is just, this is just the start.
You were right though. 80 is probably a conservative number.
And that's, I mean, obviously to get a little more real, like, yes, I was all in a Gakpo. He was my background last week. I wanted him bad. But much like Hen said, on a real note, do I think that he's necessarily like the missing piece that's going to take us to like the promised land? I don't think so. He's a very, very good young player who I think would have brought a lot to the team. But when you look at United specifically, we can dive into us more. Like, we've created the most big chances in the Prem. So we really do miss a proper 9. Like, we miss
Yeah.
a proper 9, a proper goal scorer. I want a Gakpo bad. Seeing Liverpool at the 9th hour come up and just sign him definitely fucking stings a little bit. Like, there's no, I mean, literally he was my background last week. If I was so sold that we were going to get him. I think he's a great signing from Liverpool. I just don't necessarily, it'll be interesting to see how Klopp makes him fit, I think is kind of my key takeaway.
What I think is going to happen is, like, if you look at their lineup from this last weekend, Butchie, Oxlade-Chamberlain's getting dropped and Gakpo's going straight into that side.
Straight into that team.
It just gets interesting, man, once we get to like March, you know, once everyone is back in full fitness, because even when we get into February, we're, you know, you all are still going to be like easing those guys back into the lineup. And with like the fixture congestion that, like, I guess Liverpool fans have the delusion that they're going to go so far in every single tournament that they play in, like, that will be good for you all to be able to rotate and keep up that high level. I guess like the thing that is just really surprising to me more than anything else is that it wasn't a midfielder signing for you all. And like, you know, technically the transfer window opens in what, like 2 days or whatever it is technically. And you could have signed someone in the first week, and next week's episode, we could be talking about it. But like, I don't know. When I just look at your lineup, that front line is where you all are deepest, in my opinion. And your midfield line is just like struggling through. I was just really surprised that was
Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Jude. We're buying Jude.
Well, you guys are more linked with Enzo than Jude right now.
We're buying. Well, hey, we weren't even linked with Gakpo.
Yeah, that's where Fabrizio pisses me off. But
look what happened.
Dope said, yeah, that's true.
I do think what's interesting is if Nunes comes good, like, I think a 4-4-2 with like Bobby and Nunes up front, with Firmino dropping in as like kind of like that 10 false 9, like Salah out one side, Diaz on the other side, Salah on one side, Gakpo on the left. Like, I think that has potential to be disgusting.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious, Butchie, like, what do you think happens with Diaz? Like, do you keep him? Do you sell him? Like,
You have to keep him. I think he's a baller.
Yeah,
He's a baller.
He's so good.
I think he's a baller too, but like, you have Gakpo now, who is like leading production aside from Holland now. I think Gakpo is leading production of like goals and assists in all of Europe. So it's hard for me to imagine that he's not starting 80% of the games, if not more. So is Diaz going to be like chilling with that?
Yeah, I mean, it brings up a little bit of, you know, there might be some unhappiness in terms of trying to balance 6 really good players. But look at the best teams in the world. Manchester City has the same problem.
Winks so badly wants to toot his own horn right now.
Man City has the same exact scenario. They have 6 world-class forwards.
Yeah.
And they rotate them and they keep them happy and they win titles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that's true.
We're in the exact same position that they're in. But
can I give props to 2 Liverpool players real quick? Both young kids. I don't know how to pronounce the first one's name, the Stefan, whatever his last name is, the midfielder that came on and scored.
Yeah.
Electric off the bench. That was awesome. And I mean, Aston Villa is not Manchester City, but I didn't really notice him too much in like the City game, but coming on and scoring, that was really cool to see. And then that Ben Doak kid, or Doak, however you pronounce it, like pulling that nasty, like, what do you do? Like that dummy step over and it went between the defender's legs, like his first minutes ever for Liverpool. I was like, that was so sick to watch. It was just cool. That was really fun to watch.
Bacetic, the young kid, he's 18.
Yeah, he's young.
And I like him. I like him.
Is it because he's Spanish? That's why you like him?
No, I like him. I like him because
Always
he's
got a soft spot for him.
Yeah,
Always got a
No,
soft
no,
spot
no,
for the
no.
Spaniards.
Hey, I like him. Let's move on. Okay. Let's move on. Hey,
Perfect. Happy to.
let's go to Arsenal, who beat West Ham 3-1. What a second half from the Gooners.
Seriously.
Winks. Here we go.
Yeah. So I talked about this last week on the pod, and it's at the end of the day, it's West Ham. They're not in good form whatsoever. But I think that these are the games that, like I talked about last week, we just have to get a result from. And I feel like it's been across all of our teams kind of an Achilles heel where we just drop points to teams that we shouldn't be dropping points to. And that's where we see, our teams falling in the table throughout the season, is just by slowly losing these games that we shouldn't. And so I'm proud of the boys for getting 3 points, 5 points ahead of City right now at the top of the table, which is awesome. But yeah, resilient is definitely a word I would use. I think that, the team could have responded a lot differently than they did after going down to that pretty weak penalty, in my opinion, in the first half. And I think that on Saturday we play Brighton, and I think it's definitely going to be a tougher game. Brighton's been playing well. They beat us in November in the Carabao Cup. But looking ahead to that game, without reading too much into the West Ham game, I think that we that's another game we should win for sure too. I know that looking at the Brighton lineup the other day, I always have problems pronouncing these guys' names, but Caicedo,
Yeah.
pronounce his name. He's on a red card, so he won't be there, which I believe means
That's massive.
Yeah, it's
That's
a huge
massive.
loss.
So I think that the game is going to be won or lost in the midfield next game, with him being gone. I think that means that wouldn't Billy Gilmore get the start for Brighton,
Probably.
Potentially.
which would be cool to watch him play. But I think that when we did lose to them in the Carabao Cup, we didn't play many of our starting players. Zinchenko is back and game fit, so I think he'll be challenging Kieran Tierney for a spot on the wing back position, and then Ben White on the right. But we should have everybody minus Gabby Jesus there. From a betting perspective, I'm taking Martin Odegaard to score a goal. He's scored 2 goals in 2 different away games so far this season, so I wouldn't be surprised.
What a signing he's been.
Bro.
Seriously. He's been incredible.
Been a revelation.
Yeah.
Man of the match against West Ham. He demands the ball everywhere he is, man, and he is everywhere. He's kind of floating all over the place and distributing to our wingers, Saka and Martinelli. And yeah, man, they're so fun to watch. I feel like it was special having Wenger back in the stadium, watching that game.
Yeah, that was cool.
And just seeing them play the kind of football they played against them, especially in the second half. But I think that we by far looked like the more comfortable team the entire game. But one-touch football was just so pretty to watch. And again, I'm obviously biased when it comes to it, but you talked about Newcastle being such a fun team to watch. I think that Arsenal deserves to be in that conversation too.
Absolutely.
Both of us, I believe, both teams, I believe, are leading the Prem in clean sheets this season. I think Newcastle has 8, we have 7. So we talk about Arsenal's front line and midfield producing a lot. But, you know, I think that when Ben White first got pushed to the right back position, I don't think a lot of people were expecting us to be as defensively
100%.
as defensively compact and skilled as we have been. So it's been great. Obviously it sucks with Tomiyasu you know, hurting from a hamstring injury, but Ben White's done an incredible job. Saliba, Gabriel have been incredible as well. And even on an offensive side, you know, Gabriel's been incredible in the boxing corners and stuff like that. But I think that, you know, if our back line can keep guys like Trossard, you know, on his heels and off the ball as much as possible, I think that, you know, we have a good chance.
Yeah. Thoughts on Nketiah? He obviously got a goal, which is what you want as a striker. But I don't know if you watched the post game at all, but it was kind of cool. It was like an extended post game for both like the, what was it, Monday and Tuesday games, or Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever it was. I don't know. It was like an hour long. They were like interviewing players and stuff, which was cool. But one of the things I was really surprised to hear from all four of the analysts was that Arsenal should not sign a number 9 in January, which I thought was just a really interesting take, knowing how adamantly we talked about that last week of how we all would do that. If we were in charge of Arsenal, we would sign a number 9. So what were your thoughts on Eddie, and what are your thoughts now with like signing a 9?
So it's interesting, and I hope that he continues to prove both myself and everybody wrong. Obviously you want him to do well, and he's done well for us in Europa League games when he has played. Obviously hasn't gotten a lot of playing time much this season, but I'm happy for him. The only problem from like a player management perspective, when you have another player playing that same position on your team, I feel like that naturally pushes, you know, however many players you have in that position, it pushes them to want to succeed more because they're fighting for a position. And right now, Nketiah is kind of like the sole player for us in that position, with Gabby Jesus being injured. So I disagree with them, and still think that we need somebody. At least, you know, I think the João Felix thing, I know Dobes and I were talking about it, would be, it's always dangerous to sign somebody on loan with an option to buy. But I think that a loan player may be the smart move here until Gabby Jesus can get back. But I definitely think we still need somebody to kind of push Nketiah and remind him that he's still got to fight for that position.
The loan move seemed to be
Butch as a coach, what do you see? I'm interested to hear your take.
Well, my question to you before I answer that is, you have the transfer window comes up in 3 days. So who do you buy? If you're Arteta, who do you buy to push Nketiah?
Yeah. I mean, we put a bid on Mudryk. I know that they want more for him than what we initially offered. So we'll see. I think that he's a young, incredible talent with, you know, proven success in Champions League games and things like that. And I think that in a young player, that's not, and I'm talking about individually, obviously not from a team perspective, but that's not always easy to find for that price tag. I feel like most of the time when you're signing those kind of guys, it's going to be 80 to 100 mil, if not more. But
I think that's what it's going to be. I don't think that it's going to, like, I think that if you sign him in January, it's going to be 60 to 70 to 80. I don't see it being.
And I've seen those reports, you know, saying that like the team thinks that he's a more of a price tag like Grealish than something like Antony. And I don't know. I'm not a technical director. I'm not a sporting director, so I can't, you know, make those exact decisions, obviously. But I think that he would be great. He would be fun, young. I believe he's Ukrainian, right?
Yep.
And, you know, having Zinchenko on the side too, I think that would help him mesh with the guys really well. Obviously, Zinchenko's loved by the club and the players, but if it's not him, João Felix would be such a great fit. And I know we just talked about the the loan with the option to buy being dangerous, but man, he would be so fun
Yeah.
on that team. He would be
I
so
I still think, and I very much, I mean, obviously as a massive Arsenal hater, I very much enjoyed watching Arsenal this past weekend, watching them go down 1-0 and still sort of turn the screw and go through the gears of going through the game. That one touch football between Xhaka, between Odegaard, between Martinelli and Saka. Like, it was so fun to watch. And then when they finally scored, you could see just the floodgates open. But based off of watching them play West Ham this past weekend, I mean, I know Winks, you and I were talking about it. Like, João Felix is the perfect player for that system.
Mhm.
He's that guy that Butchie, you were talking about it. He plays in Atletico Madrid. He's a possession-based player, and he's playing in an Atletico Madrid side that keeps like 35% possession during the game. And you watch the way that Arsenal looked this past weekend. It kind of looked like, I don't want to say necessarily the Arsenal of old yet, give them that kind of compliment, but we all remember that the Fabregas days where we used to see them, the Wilshere, just the pinging back and forth, the 1 and 2 touch passing. And I do think that like that João Felix signing could, like, I genuinely think that could be a title deciding signing. Like, I think that if they bring in somebody like that, a possession based player who's a proper 9, who can score, who can also get involved in the link up play, him, Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard could have a field day.
Yeah.
I mean, I
could be
want
gross.
United to sign him, but I do just think we don't necessarily play that style yet. Like, we have moments where we play that 1-2 touch, but we're more of a counter-attacking team. As
Mhm.
to where Arsenal's a few years ahead of us in their rebuild, and they have that fluidity and that 1 and 2 touch passing in the final third. And if they get João Felix, oh my God, it could be scary.
Yeah.
Yep,
Could be
yep.
gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's one of those things, like, I don't want to get too excited about it
Yeah,
because
yeah, of course.
Well,
No.
Winks, to answer your question, like you asked, what would I do as a coach? I would not in any way buy Mudryk right now. No. If you buy a kid, yes, he's talented. He doesn't have any experience, right? He's super young. He's 18, 19, right?
That's what's crazy about the price tag too.
Yeah.
So
Nuts.
if you're Arsenal, you lose your experienced forward, Jesus. You have an inexperienced Nketiah. You don't bring in another inexperienced young player when you're 5 points top the league trying to hold your lead at the top of the Prem. You have to bring in experience. So João Felix, he may be 23, 24, but he's been around those environments where, like, he's played for titles. He's
Played in
played
big
in really good
games.
sides.
Yeah.
He's played in big games. So he may be, quote unquote, still in a young stage of his career, but he has a lot more experience for me than a guy like Mudryk.
I agree.
So I would go all in on João Felix. Like Dobe said, the potential in that team is high the way he plays. I would go all in on it. I would pay $12 million loan fee. I don't give a shit. I'm going all in on him.
Not your money.
How are you?
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. I
Bro,
would wait till the summer for
Kroenke's
you.
cheap though. We know this. We know from experience. Kroenke's cheap.
He is, though. He is, man. He is. Last but not least, we got United, who played Nottingham Forest.
Tricky trees.
A nice 3-0
trees.
dub for these Red Devils of United here. Go ahead, fellas.
Almost called it at 4-0. Almost called it.
Yeah, I had 3-1.
We were so close, man. Do you want to start off? Give us the thoughts.
I mean, sure, I can start it off. I think the biggest touching point from that game for me is Casemiro. I mean, he was absolutely everywhere. I kind of rewatched the highlights and rewatched most of the game. And Casemiro's absolutely immense. Like, for me, it's between him and Rodri at the moment for 2 best defensive midfielders in the world. I mean, he's just been incredible. But other than that, like, I think the kind of the changes was the things I was impressed with was Luke Shaw stepping in at center back, and he was, and I'm just going to say it, he was better. That was a better performance from him at center back than I'd seen from Harry Maguire for United in a long time.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think that if an injury happens, I think you can slide Luke Shaw in there and he will do just fine because he was excellent. A couple other standout performances for me. I thought Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he wasn't great, but he did his job. There's been so much conversation about him recently, whether we're going to keep him, sell him. I still think we have to get rid of him because long-term solution, I don't think he's a right back for Man United. But I do have to give him credit because he did step up and play well when we needed him to. And I think it's just a little bit of Marcus Rashford doing what Marcus Rashford does. The set piece, Christian Eriksen, straight off the training ground, Marcus finish. Honestly, I don't think there's too much to talk about. Solid performance. We'll take the 3-0 win. We look great at moments. The moment that we had to take Martial out, the game changed. Rashford didn't look as great as a 9. But I do think there's a lot of potential and some stuff to build on, especially, Varane. How about him coming back one training session, says, I'm playing, which we haven't had anybody with that mentality in a long time. It says, I'm going straight back in the team.
Yep.
So I'll take the 3 points. I mean, I think as we start to build, it's going to be huge getting Lissandro back. Two World Cup winning center backs is our pairing now, which I think is great moving forward. But just a solid 3 points. I mean, not a whole lot to talk about other than, at least from my opinion, pretty straightforward victory. Not a whole lot to talk about other than the performances from Casemiro.
Yeah. The only other thing that I'll call out, 2 things really. We said it in the preview, but it's Nottingham Forest. It wasn't against City.
Terrible.
Terrible. They also weren't great. But it is really cool to see finally, after years of United just being so poor, to see an identity, to see a defensive identity, to see an offensive identity, and to start see things that we want to see as fans. My big question mark of the game was what is Antony doing? He seems so out of confidence right now. And granted, leading up to the World Cup, he missed the 5 games leading up to it. So he was out with an injury, and then there was a knock and potentially not wanting to come back and re-injure it, all that stuff. But since coming back, and even when he was playing in the World Cup, there were so many times that I was watching him just not impressed. It's the same thing right now. You watch him play, and then you watch Garnacho play, and you just size them up and say, which would you prefer? You're always going to lean Garnacho. So I think, especially if Sancho comes back and is, 75% of the player that he was at Dortmund, Antony might be knocked down the depth chart, which similarly, as we were saying about Nunez, of spending a ton of money. Yeah, spending a ton of money on a player, you want him to work out. And he's also, what's up, dude? You could have said it. You didn't defend it at all. You just sat there. You just took it.
Keep going.
Typical, whatever. But he's a young kid as well. We've all taken our shots talking about how one-footed Antony is. I just wonder if it's as simple as that, and that's why it's not going to work out. And granted, it's one poor game in a spell of really good games that he's had for United. So I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, but just the eye test for this game, I was he just looks lost on the pitch. And I also found it to be really interesting. We signed Antony because he was an out and out right winger. That's what he played. And then what was it, 20 minutes of the game, Ten Hag switched.
They switched.
Yeah. Rashford and Antony to put Rashford out on the right, which I thought was really fascinating. But yeah, like Dope said, it was 3 goals, 3 points. I honestly, this was the most relaxed I've ever been as a United fan watching a game. It was really nice. So
scoring early too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's very cool to see, because you see the progression that we've had under Ten Hag, and you see how there was times where Forrest would set up in sort of this 4-1-4-1 and sort of try to drive and change the way that United were set up to play. And very quick, we adjusted and hit those long balls diagonally over the top that just changed the entire game. And Forrest kind of had to switch their formation. So we never really noticed things like that under previous managers. But I think the one thing that you do see is, I don't necessarily know at this moment what more you can ask of Ten Hag. I don't think we have a side that's going to challenge with Arsenal or City. I do think we should finish in the top 4. But with saying that, it's Ten Hag has over a 70% win percentage. We're playing different style of football than we've played in years. We just don't have the players to play that he wants to play the way that he wants to play right now. We don't have a proper 9. We create the most big chances in the Prem. We don't have a proper 9. I love Tony, but I don't think he's the answer. We don't have a right back. All of these things that Ten Hag needs to really take this team to the next level, we don't have yet. And that kind of leads to my
Yeah.
background a little bit. It's like the Glazers, like, don't really want to talk too much about the transfer window because I really don't think we're going to do much, because it's all these reports have come out that United's going to be sold in Q1 of 2023. The Glazers don't want to spend money right now if they're going to be selling the club.
Mhm.
And so that's why it's this constant battle. It's like, yes, we have stars. Yes, we have previous signings that Ten Hag didn't make himself. Like, how far can he take us? How far can he get these guys to go and fight, while at the same time trying to adjust the way that he would ideally want his team to play. And I think we've looked great. But again, you see the Anthonys of the world not look great. I think there could be a better manager to have. Like, he's known him. He's been there with him. He's trained him for years to get the best out of him. And I think what you've seen him do is he started fixing the spine of our team, which we'd missed so bad. We didn't have two center backs that we trusted. We
Mhm.
didn't have a defensive midfielder that we trusted. Now we have Rolls Royce Varane, World Cup winning Lisandro Martinez, and arguably, I debate it with anybody, the best defensive midfielder in the world right now in Casemiro, who brings so much more than what he does on the ball, but the experience in a locker room. And so just changing the spine of our team has changed the entire output in the way that we can play. We can play a little bit more higher of a line because we can trust Lisandro, we can trust Varane, we can trust Casemiro to put those tackles in. And that's what we didn't have before. So it's like all positive signs moving forward, but I don't think that our club and this team take the next step until we truly back Ten Hag, because right now we're hindering him more than we're helping him. If we wanted Gakpo, we should have got him Gakpo.
Yep.
If he wants a right back, we should go out and get him a right back. Because you see Liverpool, you see Arsenal getting ready to spend money. You see Chelsea spending all this money. You see Newcastle getting ready to spend all this money. Like, who knows what else? I mean, City doesn't need to spend any more money. They're already world class. But like, all these clubs are going out and spending money. Ten Hag has us sitting in fifth, 1 point off of fourth. Thank you for that, Winks, by the way, because I definitely would have forgot that if it wasn't your background. 1 point off of fourth. So what more could he do at this point? I don't really know. I'm just going to be content with kind of where we are. Back him until I can't back him anymore. We'll just kind of see what happens from here.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good analysis. It's like you've gotten 3 good pieces. I think you're about 2 or 3 away from being
really challenging for stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what's so frustrating, because you can
Yeah.
see it. You can see the quality and where we're missing it. It's fucking Glazers just aren't going to spend money. Like, even the João Felixes alone, I don't think it's going to happen, because the Glazers are cheap fucks and don't want to go pay his wages. I think he's on like 385 or something like that a week, which is still outrageous. But like,
That's a lot.
I mean, I would spend it. I would spend it tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if it means
Yeah,
top 4, spend it.
It came out like yesterday, 2 days ago, that like we're only looking into loan deals. I'm like, bro, there's just not that many like loan deals out there that people are interested in doing. There's
I
like,
texted you this morning. I was like, I wish that January was already over, because
yeah,
it's like, I mean, you guys went. I mean, the whole soccer world goes through giving the United fans their clicks, talking about who United's going to sign. We end up signing nobody. Just give us Memphis Depay on a free. That's all we're going to get. We'll move on to February and see what happens.
call it a day already.
Yeah, like,
All right. Well, the last thing we could do here real quick, we could keep it short and sweet, but we can preview the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day fixtures for our clubs.
Yes.
love it.
And we can start off. My Liverpool Reds play tomorrow, December 30th, against Leicester City. I think Henry hit it on the head. Leicester is shite.
No, I said that they were really good. They're probably going to beat Liverpool.
They're shite. And it's at Anfield. I think we'll cruise. I think it'll be we'll win by 2 or 3 goals.
Just a depleted Leicester side right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, also, like, with that being said, James Maddison, like, he was injured before the World Cup break, didn't feature for England at all. And then Brennan Rodgers this week said that he might have like re-injured his knee at the World Cup. Like, are we going to see that kid play football like ever?
It's a shame, because he's
Yeah,
when he's on
so good.
When he's on, he's
He's
arguably one of the
great.
best 10s in the Prem.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
he's-
awesome.
He's good. I'm with Butch though. I think Liverpool cruises here. I mean,
Yeah.
Liverpool didn't look great before the World Cup break. That game against City, they actually looked pretty solid. And then we saw again at the weekend that when they're on, they're on. We didn't see that a lot. They were so inconsistent the first half of the season. But I do think that Leicester's just so fucking bad that even Liverpool can
Yeah.
cruise
I hope
past them.
Gakpo plays. I don't know if he will, but
I don't think
man.
can he?
No,
I was gonna say I don't think he can
Oh,
play
can he
till
not play till
January.
January?
Yeah, I don't think he
he
can play
can.
till
He'll
Oh,
January.
I guess the
play.
Eredivisie's just like on pause until like
Yeah.
January or whatever. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll play. He could play on January 2nd when we play Brentford.
Yeah, he'll definitely play then. But it would have been
So,
cool to watch against Leicester because like their back line is just so leaky. Even their keeper is leaky. So like to have him
Yeah.
in there to play passes, like get on the end of balls, like it would have been cool
Maybe
to watch.
maybe even Nunes scores this weekend. Who knows?
Maybe I'm certainly not taking the bet, but
all right. Okay. All right. Okay.
So
all right.
what's your score line that you're predicting?
3-0.
Cool.
That's fair.
3-0.
That's fair.
Next up, 6:30 a.m. on New Year's Eve, we
Mhm.
have United away at Wolves.
Yeah.
Tricky, tricky.
And go ahead. You can start us off.
You said it before, but like Wolves seem to have our number quite a bit. They know how to hunker down. They finally got their first win under their new manager. They're coming in off of a high, and then they have our good friend Diego Costa up top to just ruffle the feathers of every single defender that we have. If Lisandro Martinez is back, what
back.
a shit house matchup that would be between the Butcher and Diego
You
Costa.
psychopaths.
Would be nuts. Man, I see a tie here. I see a tie. I want the win, obviously, but I could see it being like a very low scoring tie, whether it's 0-0 or 1-1. I just think that Wolves know how to hunker down at home, and they're a bunch of dogs. So I just see it being a tie.
Dubs?
Yeah. That sounds crazy. I would not that I'd take a tie, but I don't think a tie is a bad result here. I just think for whatever reason, like Wolves always gets up for Man United. They always do. And the midfield that they have with Neves, the upfront who they have. I think in the last couple of years we've seen that because we haven't had that spine to where we've gone down a goal or couldn't score. And I hate to keep like talking about it, but the difference here is Casemiro for me. Like we finally have that piece in the midfield that can compete with Neves, that can muck up that midfield, and then Eriksen and Bruno. I'm going to go 2-1. I think we win. I do think a lot of it's going to be because of bringing that center back pairing of Varane and Lisandro back. I think there's something like when Varane's in the team, United's only given up 4 goals.
Wow.
Like it's like in 890 plus minutes, we've only conceded 4 with Varane in the team. And then you get, I mean, he's just world class. And then you get Lisandro Martinez back after a World Cup victory. He's going to come back and want to prove himself. I'm actually pretty sure I read something that he skipped his friend's wedding or something this past weekend because he wanted to get back with United. So I do think this game it's always a tricky one. Like I do think it's going to be very back and forth. I think United's going to try to let them have a little bit of the ball because we've seen so consistently that when Wolves sits back and hunkers in, they're very, very difficult to break down.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Ten Hag doesn't set us up. And we very much are a counterattacking team anyway, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ten Hag doesn't set us up to hit them on the counter. Rashford maybe gets 1 or 2. Tony gets 1. I'm going to go like a 2-1 or 3-1, but I do think that we probably concede. I think Wolves just has our number. It's going to be a corner or a set piece.
Yeah.
Or something weird, but I'd be happy with the draw. But just for confidence sake, I'm gonna go ahead and say we win 2-1.
I love it.
All right. Last but not least, we've got the Arsenal on New Year's Eve away at Brighton.
Tricky game.
tricky.
Yeah.
Tricky.
I know we kind of touched on it earlier, but I think that the game will be won or lost. Similar to how you kind of described that Argentina game, I believe it was against Croatia, but it'll be won and lost in the midfield. I don't know if McAllister will be in the side either. The more I think about it, I know he's set on a move to. I think he's linked heavily with Juventus in the January transfer window, but with Caicedo out on a red card. Brighton lets up a decent amount of goals compared to what they score. So I think that, again, as long as we can lock down Trossard up top, I see a 2-1 or maybe even 3-1 win, similar to how we beat West Ham. But I'm hoping that that doesn't come at the expense of us being down in the first half like we were this past game. I think that similar to how United played against Leicester, I think that scoring early is going to be a key here as well, and kind of setting the tone. I know we're going to have possession for most of the game, but yeah, I don't think that there's too much to read into this game either. I think we win.
Brighton always plays the big teams tough. Brighton's one of those
They
teams
do.
that they play pretty football. They can keep the ball. They look dangerous going forward. But then again, I think kind of like you said, Winks, with missing the guys that they're missing, I just think that Arsenal's got too much quality. It's
Mhm.
Yeah.
a fully healthy Brighton. I may go like a tie here, but I think that you guys are going to be too much for them in the midfield.
Yep.
And I'll say it every week until the end of the season, but this is one of those games that we just have to get a result from if we want to keep our spot and keep contending. So
It's like Matt Turner said after the game this past weekend. He's like, we're just taking it one game at a time.
Yep.
Get 3 points. It's all you can do.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Well, last but not least, we will touch on the alien himself, Erling Haaland. Holy mother of God.
He's a revelation, man. He's a revelation.
Dude,
not real.
dude, a few weeks
Frustrating.
ago, I asked you guys, does he score 40? Fact or cap? And half of you said cap, half of you said fact. I said fact because this guy's a freaking extraterrestrial. And he scored 2 more. He's got 20 goals in 14 games in the Prem.
It's gross.
20.
Yeah.
Bruh.
It's awesome.
That's the only way to describe him is just bruh.
I did think that it was funny. What was it? JP in the Mecca said, man, he's really going to need to start scoring hat tricks if he wants to score 50, which is like a hilarious text to think like we're kind of talking shit. Well, he's not scoring hat tricks. So it's like, bro, he's bagging 2 every game he plays. It's
He could have
gross.
had 4 this weekend. Like he
Dude.
very easily could have had 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude.
That City side is. I always hear Goldbridge was talking about it, how Arsenal's winning, but Arsenal's going to have to keep up with City because that team is just absolutely unreal, and it's perfect for, like, we saw Haaland's second goal where it's just like it's the easiest goal he's scored in his career. But that's
Yeah.
what this City side provides to him is like
Yeah.
the ability to put him in the right spot and score goals. Like that's 40 goals is. I think I texted you guys this 40 goals is going to seem like nothing to him. Like,
Yeah. And it's
like-
kind of like, it's kind of dangerous. Like, I think that we've also like talked about with like this Messi and Ronaldo thing of how like guys that have been at the top of their game for so long, they're setting expectations that are so unfathomable, like for anyone. I think it's going to kind of be like this with Haaland, where like he might score, let's just say like, what did I say? 45 or something like a couple weeks ago.
41, I think.
Okay, yeah, 41 goals this year. And then like let's say next year he scores 47 and then 47, 52, like whatever it may be, we're going to start expecting that like elite goal scorers score over 40 goals. And it's like, dog, like that's not the case. And so it's just kind of interesting to watch someone who's like so early on in their career setting the numbers that they are, might change the course of what we expect, like what Messi and Ronaldo did. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's just changing the number 9 game. I'll say this, I would take Mbappe 7 days a week over Haaland, but Haaland, the battle of Haaland and Mbappe for the next, I mean, let's hope. Like, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's just hope that these guys can stay healthy. I don't think it's a Messi Ronaldo necessary level of battle, but if we can watch Haaland and Mbappe just go back and forth for the next 5 to 10 years, is every football fan's dream. Like he's an alien.
I want to give you guys one stat on Haaland here. Okay. His last 3 clubs, Salzburg, he had 29 goals in 27 games. Dortmund,
Average
86 goals in 89 total games.
Wow.
City, 26 goals in 20 games. And Norway, 21 goals in 23 games. He is
And
22 years old, Chad.
remember when we were comparing Nunez and him?
Oh my God.
I guess
bro, you literally you said, "Here's a softball, Dobes. Here's a softball. Knock it out of knock it out of the park." Too.
I mean, his like goal. I mean,
do they have assists in there at all? I know he
Well,
doesn't get a ton of them, but like,
He
doesn't
doesn't
get-
have them. He doesn't
yeah,
have them.
He
I
doesn't
mean-
get the assists Mbappe has, but dude, Haaland's a freak, bro.
he is a freak. It is interesting though, because like they're such different players, and like even comparing them to like current players, it's really hard to do that. But Haaland has just like this killer instinct inside the box that like he does pop up in spaces, or like those 2 steps that he takes to get on the end of a ball. It's something that I've never seen in my entire life. Like, even when I think of like Luis Suarez, who's like the best striker of our generation, in my opinion, like he's not that, like he combines plays. He can dribble a guy or two. He can score these ridiculous, like outside the box curlers, like all of this stuff. He's a tricky player. But Haaland's just different, so explosive, so powerful, makes such intelligent runs, even if it's 1 step and he's just there. And then Mbappe is just, it's kind of different. He flies down the wing. He almost like, this is going to be a really weird comparison. He reminds me a lot of like Luka Doncic for the Dallas Mavericks, and the way that they like control a game, in the sense like they slow the game down to their pace, and then when they're ready to explode, they explode. Like they don't have to go 100 miles per hour every second of the game. Mbappe slows the game down a lot because he knows that his explosiveness like gets him all of those yards. And then Luka does the same thing for the Mavs, like slows the game down a ton and then goes. Which I think might be like kind of like a prototype for the future.
I agree with that. That's a very well, like, that's a great
Yeah.
comparison. I had to see where you were going there, but that's a great comparison.
They're both like 6'7". They're both huge.
They're both foreign.
Yeah. They're young. They're good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. As always, follow us on the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We are on Spotify, baby.
Yeah, we are.
So sit back in your car, enjoy a cup of Java, and turn the damn podcast on.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Flip it.
Peace and love.
Peace
Flip
and love. Cheers, everyone.
Hey, happy New Year's, everybody.
Yeah. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's.